Hi guys, welcome back to Mission DIY. Today I'm going to show you how I made my bathroom countertop look like marble for less than $100 and go from looking like this to looking like this.
This bathroom countertop is made out of scrap 2x4s, and after 8 years it finally started falling apart. So instead of replacing it with expensive stone, I tried something I've never done before for a fraction of the price. I poured epoxy over it. But was it actually worth it? Let's take a look at what we started with. Years ago, in an effort to save money on real stone, I built this countertop out of scrap 2x4s. I literally cut up pine 2x4s, laid them out in a pattern I thought looked interesting, and glued it all together on a sheet of plywood into one solid wood surface. I whitewashed it and then applied several coats of water-based acrylic top coat. And honestly, it held up pretty well. This wood countertop has lasted about 8 years, although realistically, it probably should have been replaced around year 5. Over the past couple of years, the top coat started breaking down. Around the sink especially, the finish got soft and gummy. I'm guessing that's from cleaning products. We mostly use vinegar, but occasionally a foaming bleach bathroom cleaner. And that was probably the final blow. Once it got gummy, it trapped dirt and it just started looking gross. So it was definitely time for an upgrade. And once again, instead of spending the money on real stone, I decided to go with a budget-friendly option: epoxy. So why epoxy? Before committing, we really weighed the pros and the cons. The pros: it's a seamless surface, similar to quartz or granite. It's pretty waterproof. It's durable. It's great for bathrooms. It has endless design options, and it's way cheaper than granite or quartz. The cons, though: it's very messy. It has fumes, there's a very limited working time, and it's not forgiving if you make mistakes. It's also not as heat resistant as real stone, and it can scratch. But for this bathroom, the pros won. This felt like a perfect place to test epoxy countertops. If it turns out great, maybe I'll try it in the other bathrooms, or even in the basement bar. For our surface, the good news is that the wood countertop actually made an excellent base for epoxy. It was solid, stable, and already smooth. I just sanded it down with some rough grit sandpaper. I purchased this resin kit and some other pigments. I've linked to the kit and supplies in the description box. This kit came with everything I needed to mix and pour, including gloves, stirring sticks, and containers. It also came with some pigments. And I opted to add some glitter and use sponge brushes, both purchased separately. Next, I taped off the cabinet and the sink. I really like this pre-taped plastic. It makes the job go much quicker. After that was done, I made sure to cover the floors really well and tape off the walls. By the way, if you're curious how I built that custom medicine cabinet, you can check out the video in the link below. I checked the instructions to figure out the correct mix ratio. At first, I assumed it was just equal parts resin and hardener, but that isn't the case with this stuff. So make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully and use a scale to measure each component accurately. I added in the pigment and glitter that I wanted, and separated some out for different colors. For this initial pour, I grossly underestimated how much I would actually need, and it didn't fill the surface entirely the way that it should have. It was also too clear and not opaque enough. I didn't like that I could still see through it. I let it cure overnight and checked the results, which were not pretty. There were little divots all over the place, as you can see here, and the surface was super transparent. This kit comes with plenty of product to pour a small countertop such as this, so I decided to give it another go. I sanded the surface with a rough 36 grit sanding block to be sure the next layer would stick. I measured out enough material this time and separated it into different cups to add color variations. I began by pouring the white and then pouring in the other colors to kind of create a marble effect. One of the cool things about epoxy is that the colors flow together so nicely and you can really create a nice stone look. And the design options are pretty limitless. I used a sponge brush to spread out the epoxy over the sides. And using a heat gun helps pop the little air bubbles that come up. Okay, now let's talk about what I would do differently. First, I absolutely should have taped off the edges and built up a temporary dam wall on the open sides. That would have prevented some early overflow in the first 10 to 20 minutes. Second, my mixture was a little too thin when I started pouring. That made it harder to control at the edges. Epoxy does have a learning curve, and you don't get much working time. Once it starts flowing, it's going. I was seriously wiping these edges and messing with this for over an hour. I definitely poured this too soon. It got to the point where I just got really tired and I decided to go to bed. And the drips just kept coming, albeit very slowly. When I woke up the next morning, I did see some visible drips that I wasn't happy with. And now, to answer the question, is it worth it? For laundry rooms, basement bars, vanity tops, and budget remodels, absolutely. This is a fun project and it's very cost effective and it's a great upgrade. But I think for high-end kitchens or heavy cooking environments or areas with constant heat exposure, I'd probably skip it for the long term, or at least treat it as a temporary solution while saving up for granite or quartz. In my opinion, nothing really beats real stone. That being said though, I'd rather save up my money and go on some cool vacations. We got kids, we got pets. My house isn't high-end enough anyway for real stone. So I'm happy with this. But would I do it again? Honestly, probably. But compared to my kitchen counters, I'm kinda not sure. In my kitchen, I painted the counters instead. I loved having more working time, and if I didn't like something, I could just paint over it. I could adjust the design as I went. See how I built our custom kitchen counters linked in the description below. Painting the counters felt more forgiving, but it doesn't have that glassy, smooth surface that epoxy has. Epoxy is bold, it's dramatic, it's one and done, and it has that appealing look similar to real stone. But with painting, you definitely have more control. So to finish off this project, I took down all the plastic and Russ re-drilled the hole for the faucet where epoxy had dripped in. I had taped the underside so epoxy wouldn't drip into the cabinet. I was surprised with how much epoxy dripped in there and filled the hole. I do have some minor problems like this little divot. I'm not really sure exactly what happened here. Perhaps a piece of debris, but I'm not really sure at all. I also have some drips that hardened. This is due to the fact that I poured too soon. I also didn't tape the sides to create a wall. The dripping never seemed to stop, so eventually I went to bed and woke up to this. Most of it is hard to see unless you look at it from underneath or you're 2 feet tall. So overall, I'd say epoxy countertops are definitely worth considering for projects like bathroom vanities, laundry rooms, basement bars, or any budget remodel where you want something that looks great without spending a fortune. Mine isn't perfect, but in the end, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, especially considering what we started with. I've learned some valuable lessons from this project that I'll remember if I do this again. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes 9:10 that says, "Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might." That's kind of the spirit behind projects like this. It might seem difficult or intimidating, but just keep at it, and you'll get there. Epoxy takes some patience to get right, but for the cost, I think it's a pretty impressive upgrade. If you've tried epoxy countertops yourself, I'd love to hear how it worked out for you. Let me know in the comments. I'm also curious, would you try epoxy countertops? What about painted counters? Or would you rather just save up for granite or quartz? Let me know in the comments. If you found this helpful, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more DIY projects like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next project.